Yeah, totally. You want me to take it away?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right, perfect. Well, cool. Welcome, everyone. I am really excited for all of you, the listeners of this talk, because we're going to hear from founders in tech, nonprofit, crypto spaces on what they are building is contributing to this peaceful revolution of shifting power from the hands that have been holding tightly onto it into the hands of people who usually get left behind when it comes to benefiting from technological innovation. We're going to talk to them about what they're doing within their organizations to empower their teams, and then we're going to cap it off with actions that you can take to be a part of this peaceful revolution. So I'm going to keep things moving along because we only have 30 minutes and then we've got a pretty decent sized panel. So don't take it personally if I hop in and ask you to wrap it up a little bit. To kick it off, I'd really love to hear from those of you who are working on nonprofits or social impact projects and hear about how what you're building is helping the world. Gilad, we talked a little bit yesterday about how you're working on BitGreen, which is what I've heard described of as a purpose-built blockchain. Could you describe what the heck that means exactly and what BitGreen is doing to fulfill that description?
Yeah, so just quickly, it's a bit of a play on words. In the world of Polkadot, which is the ecosystem that we're built on, it's a network of blockchains, each one with its own purpose, and our purpose happens to be purpose. So as a general blockchain, all the hot words that you may have heard of, NFTs, metaverse, all that could be built on our chain. Our baseline for what we do is impact. And for us, the key figure that's always out there in front of us and what we do is 50 trillion, which is the projected funding gap that the world has for the SDGs, for biodiversity, you name it, that's the funding gap. And we believe that Web3 is uniquely suited to fill those gaps. And so what we're building are marketplaces that connect between supply of capital and demand of capital. The problem isn't that there isn't money out there for great causes or that there aren't incredible causes that have a great use case for the money. It's that they don't know where to meet. And through a decentralized Web3 marketplace, like the ones that we're building for impact investing and for ecosystem service credits, i.e. carbon credits and plastic credits, we believe that we can unlock significant, meaningful capital to this space and do it in a way that kind of democratizes those asset classes. So anyone can participate, anyone can invest, anyone can put up opportunities for investment, really flattening the opportunity zone and moving away from what's usually been a very kind of like exclusive world. That's us.
Very cool. Thanks for explaining that to me. Initially, I read that and I was like, the hell are they talking about? But that clears it up.
Jargon.
Yeah, jargon. Well, Chris, it's a real treat to have you, the CEO of Logic Tree, on this panel and the company that organized this whole event. Yesterday, you were talking about a governance token that you're working on. I'd love for you to share with the audience what that is exactly and how that's going to help people around the world.
Yeah, and that's, as you look at the involvement of cryptocurrency and a token and how it can help to engage community participation in a project, our impact initiative that we stand for is the helping to provide more democratization of expertise and more educational, logical content into the world. And so what things like a token allow for is more community participation in the initiatives and the efforts that we're doing. So, so just to get a little bit more specific, for in our case, there's we're doing what's called a utility token. So that means we're launching something that is specifically around content creators that are getting involved in our ecosystem, that we are rewarding their content contributions and being a part of the ecosystem in helping us to just spread the logic and this educational materials to the world. And then this allows them to participate as well in what we're doing.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. So Wendy, I'd love for you to chime in. I think it's pretty obvious from the name of your organization, Women's Entrepreneurship Day Organization, that you are clearly a social impact project and that you're doing something to help women around the world. But I'd love to hear it in your own words for the audience, how what you've built is helping women around the world.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So, Women's Entrepreneurship Day Organization was started in 2013. And when we started it, it was, at that time, women were getting 1% of venture dollars, right? And I learned a lot about the crypto how I learned about the crypto world was in 2014, I met a woman in Botswana who created the Satoshi Center, right? And that's how I really first learned about Bitcoin. And I was like, wow, you know, if we could really take this and what it was doing in Botswana and Venezuela, I was like, you know, really kind of got into that whole world. So now, you know, just fast forward, I'm an LP in 5 crypto funds. I work really closely with them in investing in women projects as well as impact. And then I'm also in about a dozen blockchain companies that I've been, you know, either advising or I'm, you know, a seed investor, an angel investor, et cetera. And so a lot of the projects I work on are really focused and partnering with a lot of the different people as part of our Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization. So one of the projects I'm working on is the largest regenerative farming project in the entire world with 6 million farmers in India. And I brought a company I'm invested in called Producers Market that's bringing traceability, transparency, and a marketplace to empower farmers to go direct to retailers, right? And so, you know, that's a partnership with also IBM and Walmart. So it's an amazing project where these women now are going to be earning double the money through this. And also you're going to be able to see on your mobile phone, you can follow them on Instagram and see these women farmers, right? And so that's like one project. And another project that I'm really proud to say and excited Sedale's on here is another company I invested in. It's called OpenGrants, which is bringing traceability, transparency of the trillions of dollars of non-diluted funding. And when I heard that, you know, to empower, you know, minorities and women to actually get more access to capital and non-diluted funding, you can't get better than that. And so one of the projects after what happened in Afghanistan, I called up Sedale and I was like, Sedale, you know, you're bringing traceability and transparency and you're working really closely with Stacks Coin and so forth. I said, my God, let's fund 100,000 women and make it really simple and easy, et cetera. And so we created this whole ecosystem with amazing women in Afghanistan that are on the ground there. Not, you know, you hear all these stories of people getting out. Let me tell you something, there's 40 million people in Afghanistan still to this day, right? 20 million of them have mobile phones, and a guesstimation is about 5 million of those are women. So in a partnership with OpenGrants, we're funding 100,000 women with crypto. So they're downloading wallets, KYC, and the whole thing. And so we want them to be able to create an ecosystem to have peer-to-peer transactions amongst themselves, to not rely on banks and the current government.
You know, Wendy, talking to you makes me so happy because a lot of the women in the space, at least in the States, the experience that we have is that there's not a lot of other women in crypto, right? Like we're all here, usually the only people in a room or, you know, a handful of people in a conference. And then you're here, you're involved in so many different projects layered on top of each other, and you're helping onboard so many women into this space. I actually want to tie in Heaven on this because she's working on a NFT platform. It's kind of actually, there's a couple things, Heaven, I would really love for you to explain. And it's the new technology that you're kind of positioning as the next evolution of NFTs, and also how you're diversifying the audience that gets to participate in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Heaven. I'm part of the Diva team, and we are launching an NFT marketplace directly on Bitcoin. And the way that we're executing those assets is through a new smart contract protocol called RGB. So what does that even mean? The assets that people are creating on top of Bitcoin are tied directly to a Bitcoin UTXO. So the structure of it is actually a little bit different than people are used to knowing about NFTs. And for those who are hearing the term NFT for the very first time, is basically a token that is attached to the blockchain that represents some kind of authenticity towards whatever digital assets that is being created. So the way that we're creating it is by tying it to an actual piece of Bitcoin or Bitcoin UTXO. And the way that we're structuring our marketplace is for it to be open, something very similar to OpenSea that a lot of people in the NFT space are familiar with. So people have access to creating, you know, these assets. But then we also have a curated marketplace. So in order to be on the curated marketplace, you can either submit as an artist or you can submit as a curator. And our hopes is that people from the NFT community, galleries, artists themselves who want to onboard their groups of networks can do that through our curated marketplace. And we're being very intentional with making sure that women, minorities are the people that are getting the space on the curated marketplace. Also adding features that are built into a marketplace where people can disclose whether they're a woman or whatever parts of their identities they feel comfortable with, so that people are easily able to support these communities if they want to come onto our marketplace and support a certain kind of creator of a certain background.
That's awesome, Heaven. Ala, you are also the founder of another NFT marketplace that's built on top of the Bitcoin Ala Stacks. ecosystem. And you actually launched with a whole woman-led project. I'd love for you to share with the audience what that was and what inspired you and Layer to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jess. So my name is Ala Koretsky. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO for Layer Technologies. So we are a one-stop platform for storage, minting, selling, distributing your NFTs. We're built on Stacks, which sits on Bitcoin. So we are, my background comes from fashion side. I was a buyer for many years, working on direct-to-consumer brands and e-commerce, and sort of was always borderline between consumer product and future technology, and was completely blown away by blockchain and crypto a few years ago, and what it can offer to sort of the everyday consumer in terms of supply chain transparency. So Wendy, totally resonate with your story and sort of how you came into the space. I think it's an incredible tool that we all have, and being able to hold a product like this. We kind of initially started Layer with the assumption that we're going to have a ton of brands that are going to be super transparent, are going to be providing us information about their companies, because we want to know as consumers, right? So why wouldn't brands be open in displaying their sustainability reports and their sustainability efforts and their ingredients reports? But apparently we were a little bit too early for that. So we said, you know what, we're going to support the consumers, we're going to support the creators, and provide them a tool where we can actually make an impact, and provide a super easy, as simplest on-ramp as possible. So it's zero, it doesn't cost you anything to come on and mint with us. You can do a simple credit card checkout. So with these super sort of easy UX experiences, we are opening the world to a global sort of creative economy, where now we have women reaching out to us in the outskirts of Africa and asking us, teaching, asking us how can we teach their environment, their schools, and on how to start minting and start sort of entering the NFT business. So we were thinking as a women-led company. So Marina Romashko is another co-founder for Layer. We were thinking sort of, what is a project that we're going to be super passionate about as our coming out project? And we knew that it had to be sort of a women-led project. So we came up with this concept of Satoshi, and what if Satoshi Nakamoto was actually a female, and how can they sort of interpret that idea? And how can we empower them to now be on this new journey of learning about crypto? So we launched on December 10th with first time previewing sort of Satoshi and Stacks NFTs in Metaverse, which was run by another woman-led startup. Jessica was one of the Satoshi artists. Her art is actually being displayed at a museum in San Francisco, which is super exciting. But through this program, just being open about a month, we're super, super inspired about all the women and just coming to us and thanking us for the ability to being able to start their businesses. So it's been an incredible journey. And I think, right now I'm really focused on, this is not going to be just a one-stop sort of platform. We want to encourage more sort of diversification. Our whole mission is how do we democratize NFTs, and offering sort of power-up tools that make the process super simple, that you can start minting and selling, but you can also start collecting and growing your wealth that way. So yeah, super excited. And what I do and what sort of the tip that I give to just my friends that just randomly call me and ask me about tips and opinions is that, listen, spend 15 minutes a day, go on 30 minutes on Twitter, read something for another 10 minutes. And you know what, if someone asks you a question, you have the knowledge to pass it on. That's the simplest sort of tool that I can provide for anyone that's willing to learn.
Yeah, 100%. I think people don't really realize how little of a time investment it is to get up to speed on crypto, because the space is being built around us as we're working in it. So everything is new to everyone. You can be just as caught up as most of the people in the space if you devote a few days to reading, and all that information is publicly available and accessible to you online. Sedale, we haven't heard from you yet. OpenGrants. I'm very curious to hear what it is you're working on and how that impacts everyone around the world.
Yeah, so really exciting, and shout out to Wendy, who really like when we connect with her pretty early on in our company trajectory, and she really helped kind of push us into a few of these really exciting opportunities. So the underlying idea behind OpenGrants is really that there are, as mentioned, trillions of dollars of aid moving around the world at any given time. And unfortunately, there are a lot of barriers to accessing that. Everything from identity, like people just don't have documentation, to the fact that there is a lot of conscious and unconscious bias in terms of awarding grant funding and these resources to people working on everything from entrepreneurship to just like trying to feed themselves and aid. So unfortunately, one of the stats that's out there, 30% of aid that's moved around the world never reaches its destination. And when you like look a bit harder at that problem, you see that, countries that are trying to do a good thing, they're frequently just like shipping cash on a pallet somewhere. It's a really terrible way to move things around. And so, blockchain and crypto rails for moving money really is just a really natural application of this incredible technology to bring transparency and traceability to this ecosystem. And then the other thing that we're super excited about with OpenGrants is the fact that, we're giving access to these groups of women and these other communities access to these wallets that not only there's resources there, but it's just the technology itself. The opportunity for whole, communities to leapfrog from really like traditional and antiquated banking ecosystems that might also have other kind of social constraints in many places, with their ability to open accounts and those kinds of things, into, hey, you now have access to this global, financial ecosystem and infrastructure. You can do business, you can transact, you can do all these things, even in these like really low resource areas. So OpenGrants provides the undergirding, built on Stellar with Inclusive and a few other groups, work with the Stacks Foundation. We provide all the compliance, traceability, transparency, and the tech stack to enable, even in low resource areas, access to this opportunity. And that's what we're really excited about.
That's really cool. I'm glad somebody's doing that. So we've all heard about all the great things you're doing for the world. A trap I see a lot of leaders and organizations fall into is focusing so much on the external, the lives of the people everywhere else, that they tend to neglect the people closest to them, their own employees. So what are you doing within your own organizations to better the lives of the people working for you? Chris, you want to kick us off? You're muted. Chris, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, having a tokenomics model that incorporates, again, the participation of everyone in the organization, but also the community that is involved. I mean, that's a large part of that tokenomics model. And, again, it comes back to, what the token is used for. Is it a utility? And what's that model of governance and participation in the network? And so from our standpoint, and having the token be something that everyone inside the organization, everyone outside the organization, everyone's able to participate. It's not just this walled garden corporation that is controlling the governance and the content. That's a big part of what we stand for. And also, I'll share that the NFT side of it, we're going to be offering the ability to, as people build content and share their logic. And part of that is they're going to share tools that help people navigate complex decisions. And they're going to share even potentially just an app. We're going to be NFTing in the future. We'll be offering the ability to NFT, for example, an application that people build. So as people contribute their logic, they can NFT that logic around a specific use case. And then that'll be something that, again, is very much about participation both inside and outside the organization.
That's really cool. So Wendy, you're involved in so many different things. I'd love to hear from you one example in one of the many organizations that you're involved in that you think is a great example of an organization really taking care of its own. Like, what can other organizations learn from you that really set your employees, your team up for success?
Well, first of all, with Women's Entrepreneurship Day, and I see Lolo's out here and a few people from our foundation, is that one of the greatest things is everyone's volunteer. including me. So our budget is never about like, okay, how are we going to pay people? It's about how we can create impact, right? And so one of the things that, you know, because I'm part of this whole ecosystem is really getting behind a DAO that is now going to be able to give people for the amount they volunteer, they're going to be getting tokens, right? So that was one of the things when I've been thinking about this is like, how do I really bring this, our foundation, to the forefront of all this stuff? Because, you know, in 2017, you know, our initiative and our agenda was, okay, innovative technologies, blockchain, you know, and I was like pounding it in their heads, Bitcoin, 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 you know, I wish they all listened. But like, anyway, so fast forward, you know, like going forward, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm like just open to everything. So we, you know, luckily, you know, we bring on, you know, amazing people like OpenGrants, and every month we bring people in that can be part of our foundation, that they can all grow and that can help their businesses, because they're volunteering for our foundation by bringing governments, business leaders, civil society together to collaborate to find solutions to uplift women in business, right? We're a ground up approach. We're not top down. We need the top, but you know, change is never going to happen from the top. So like, you know, we're really grassroots. So it's about enabling and bringing in these amazing companies and protocols that are going to enable them to actually, you know, benefit greatly for their own businesses and their own lives.
That's awesome. Thank you, Wendy. So we have less than 10 minutes, and I want to make sure that we get to what the audience can do to take part in this peaceful revolution. How can they help? How can they benefit from the massive opportunities available to them right now? Heaven, I'd love to hear what you think.
Yes, I think it all starts with education, really, and the whole world of crypto can feel very overwhelming, right? So I think a point that you said earlier, which is just taking it step by step and know that you starting on day one could be somebody else's day 100 and still have the same amount of information, right? But finding those communities that you feel comfortable learning from, right? Onboarding more people like yourself into the community. So finding more women in crypto, finding more people of color. Just a quick plug to ourselves on our Twitter account, for example, our company Twitter account, our pinned tweet is a glossary of all the different terms that are used in crypto and in the NFT space, right? Just to help people understand all the lingo that's happening, and really just finding the people that you can learn best from, no matter how long or like what bits of information it takes you in order to really grasp those things. I think people just need to take that first step, you know, whether that is just like reading a book or finding a YouTube channel of people that you like to learn from, or even investing just like $20 or $50 in buying your first amount of Bitcoin and watching that move around and going deeper into the rabbit hole. I saw a quote this morning that I thought was perfect. I can't remember who said it, but it was basically that nobody has found the bottom of the Bitcoin rabbit hole because it goes on forever. So just taking the first step and getting comfortable with this environment and just learning about all the benefits that can come from it.
I love that. I love just emphasizing the taking the first step, because again, the information is out there and there are so many people in the space willing to help educate you. Gilad, I saw you unmute. What have you got?
Yeah, I'll take it from a different track. For those that are looking to perhaps get involved professionally in this world, this is people say this all the time, and it's very true. Crypto now is like internet in like the mid 90s, maybe. It's still so very nascent, and anyone can leave an incredible mark on the entire space, even now. Like this, to think about DeFi, decentralized finance, that only started 2 years ago, not even. And it's already $200 billion locked up, and that's just going to keep blowing up. So if I were curious about this whole world, I would focus on what my interests are, what my skill sets are, and forget the fact that you're a developer, not a developer. There are developers. Actually, what is necessary in a lot of these spaces is your own subject matter expertise. For example, we are very much looking for anyone with experience in carbon markets and plastics and biodiversity. We want to talk to you. We want to talk to anyone who's into structured finance, who's done innovative finance, who wants to crunch numbers. We want to talk to anyone who does communication, social media. We want to talk to you. Your skills are transferable. And also, just so happens, because it's super early, higher risk for sure, also much higher rewards. And that's where it gets really exciting. So don't be afraid to jump in. Don't be afraid to reach out to everyone and anyone on LinkedIn, because I do it all the time, frankly. I cold call people like no other. and get involved, because now is definitely the right time. And again, if anyone is interested in exploring a blockchain use case for the work that they currently do, please reach out to us. That's our third pillar of our work: impact investing, ecosystem service credits, and partnerships. So reach out.
I love that. I bet everyone on this panel is hiring right now. So if you want to drop the link into the chat where people can find out what jobs are available in your organization, go for that. I also highly recommend to everyone here listening that we follow the panelists that you see here on Twitter or on other social media, because they have great information that they're always putting out. Especially, you know, Heaven, Allah, being in the NFT space myself, I follow them and I see what their organizations are up to and what initiatives they're following. So we have 2 more minutes left. So I would love to bring it back to Sedale and hear what your tips are for letting people take part in this peaceful revolution.
Yeah, I think along the lines of what a lot of folks have said, or at least one of the things that's kind of underlying all of that, is just the opportunity to kind of get your feet wet and participate. So for example, one of the things that we've done at OpenGrants is we've gone ahead and tokenized our securities. And so what that allows us to do is award equity to not only our employees, but contractors, anyone who engages with the company. And so all of a sudden, like folks who onboard at OpenGrants, if they don't have one already, they get a wallet. And they get to start exploring that space. And so that's really exciting. And I think that is, I mean, it's been said by everyone, I think, is, you know, follow some folks, do a little reading, and just like go experiment a bit. I got a Coinbase card finally the other day, and like went and spent a bunch of crypto instead of fiat on a weekend in San Francisco. It was really cool. Like it was kind of weird and, you know, a little counterintuitive to more of the sort of hold strategies, but it was really fun. I was like, all right, I think this is really here, you know? So yeah, just experimenting with it and like realizing that it's real and it's a thing and it's highly functional and effective is huge.
It's real, it's a thing, it's already here, it's taking over the world, taking over every industry. If you're not getting involved now, you're just going to feel even more left behind later. So dive in now. If you want to get involved from a professional standpoint, obviously a lot of opportunities here. Everyone's hiring. You don't need to be a crypto expert. You don't even need to be a programmer or some sort of technological expert. You can take your expertise you have now and bring it to the crypto space. So hop in, follow our panelists on Twitter. And that's all the time we have, folks. But thank you for joining us all. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jessica.